alcohol for me to try. Not yet.
And we should be good to go here right about now, yeah.
Right about now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is the volume good for you?
Yeah, we'll just talk up loud.
Let's talk up loud. Better?
Continue Paul Asadoorian, it's all good.
Okay, make some kind of positive noise. Okay, so if you can't hear me, make some kind of negative noise, and I'll talk louder. Alright, so I have 45 slides and 20 minutes. So we are going to move pretty quick. Just bear with me. I'll be around later to have fun. And let's see if I can use the clicker. I never get to use the remote at home. Okay, cool. So, who am I? My name is Valerie. I work for a consulting company based out of Washington, D.C. We do a lot of government consulting, and we play in the SCADA realm, so power systems and whatnot. I spend some time in Power Tower down at Georgia Power, and sometimes in Alabama Power as well. If you see me around, just wait for a little. We also do a lot of commercial work, so I get to write a lot of networks for a lot of different people. Not a bad job. The other cool thing I get to do is I get to break into buildings for a lot of people. That's even more fun. So we're going to talk about that today, because I know that the term physical penetration testing sounds a little bit dirty. So we're gonna qualify what that means, and then we're going to move on. So anyways, that's what I do. A lot of really fun stuff. I'm also involved in a charity called Hackers for Charity. If you have not heard of it, they basically make sure that 501c and nonprofits can get the security testing that they need, that they cannot afford. So if anybody has tried to purchase security testing services in the past, you'll know that it's very expensive. They make sure that the folks get what they need without having to pay massive amounts of money. They also have boots on the ground in Uganda, where they deploy mobile classrooms and set up networks for hospitals and governments there. So if you have free time, you have skills to donate, check them out. If you have money to donate, they'll gladly take that too. Okay, enough about me. Let's see if I can use this remote. All right, so physical pen testing, not really what you think. So we're going to break into some buildings, usually. Sometimes I'm hired to break into a building. Sometimes it's a complete complex. Sometimes it's just a single room in a building. It really just depends on what the client is looking for. So I'm just going to give a quick introduction of all the basics today, and if there are things that you have questions about, just catch me afterwards. The other thing is, it's not always about if I can just get in. So a lot of companies, they hire private security firms that will come out and do patrols and do other things, or not do other things. So that's one of the other reasons that we're hired, is to make sure that response times are proper. If I breach a fence or I open a door, how long does it take for somebody to come and look, so on and so forth. So it's not always about breaking and entering, but it's usually about breaking and entering. Oh yeah, and you need these if you're going to do that. You're going to walk into a building where you don't belong and act like you belong there, you're going to need both of those. So how do we get both of those? It's a scientific process of sorts. I never do any of this without authorization. Here's my disclaimer. Do not try any of the things I'm about to show you unless you have permission in writing. This is important because if you don't have it and you get caught, you will go to jail. The nice police officer that I had a conversation with in Pennsylvania was not very impressed by my get out of jail free letter, but it did keep me from getting arrested. So that's a story for another time. So how does this work? I'm not going to get funded to go to Chicago for 3 weeks to do some reconnaissance on site. The client's trying to save money, so I have to figure out how to do as much research as I can from afar. Well, there's lots of great resources for that now. Even Bing. I'm only going to say it twice. That's the first time. I feel a little weird. So Google and Bing Maps, you can see a lot of cool stuff from here. Not just the aerial view, but the street view is very useful. And Bing, oh okay, alright, it's going to be free. Bing actually has a 3D view that you can rotate. So that's very useful when I'm trying to find things like side doors that may not be as protected as the front doors. Or if I'm looking for things that maybe resemble a loading dock. Just trying to get the whole lay of the land. Trying to figure out if there's one building that I'm looking at, complex of buildings, then I'm going to need to do a little bit more research and try to figure out which ones of those buildings actually belong to my target client, because they don't always tell you. And the most important thing about reconnaissance from afar is that it tells me where I need to be when I want to do reconnaissance on site. So this is kind of cool. Google started integrating traffic cameras into Google Maps a while back. This is the shot of the Bay Area. But if I'm in DC and I need to watch something in the Bay Area, probably a webcam would be a good way to do that. And luckily, a lot of folks have already set them up. So this, for instance, in New York, if my client has a building in one of these little spots and I can sit and watch all day and all night by looking at the traffic camera, it starts to get a sense of the traffic flow of the building. When is it very crowded? When do people come into work? Are they there really early, like 7 or 8? Or are they more like 9, 9:30 kind of people? When does the cleaning crew come in? You may not be able to see them actually coming into the door, but you can see the lights going on and on in the building. So that kind of gives me an idea of when floor 13 is going to get cleaned. What are you doing with my box? No, I'm not going to demo it here. That's for later, but thank you. Please don't drop it. So, another great tool for reconnaissance from afar. We've done some maps, we've done some searches. What about Twitter? Anybody use Twitter here? I know you do, because I've already mapped it. So, Twitter has a location services feature where you can actually attach your geographical location on every tweet that you do. You need to disable this if you don't want people like me to do this to you. So this is a shot of DEF CON, I think this was last year. And the guy that I'm going to feature here talks about the social engineering African flag, so I thought this made him the prime candidate for this kind of example. So that's kind of cool. This guy is in Vegas. Where else has he been? So you can actually map this over time. You can give it a time frame and it will map all of the tweets and tell you when and where so-and-so was at that time. This is really useful to me because if I'm going to target an organization, I want to be sure that I know where their folks are. And a lot of their folks are on Twitter. This is very useful. This is the National Capital area. This doesn't look very interesting, but I'm not really sure where these people were. Maybe you guys can give me a hint, because I just don't know. You can't even have cell phones in there, by the way. I'm not really sure how those ones in the middle got there. But they did. Anyway, moving on. Turn geomapping off on your approach. So when we're looking at Street View and the website for our target business or organization, we want to look for all kinds of little things. Even these lost little pictures like lobby pictures. So this was off of a leased facilities website. This was just their quick shot saying how great that they are with security. So that little box that's over there is actually a card reader. And we're going to learn about card reading technology today. I don't know, do you guys use proximity cards here at the school? Do you have ID cards you have to touch to open doors or to check into class? No, okay. Well, maybe somebody does for some other reason. A lot of organizations use these to control their doors. We'll get to that later. So, on-site reconnaissance. We've come, we're on the plane, we're here, but now we really need to watch the building in person to get an idea of what's going on. There are lots of great ways to do this. The best way to do this is to really just blend into the target environment. Any of these people in these pictures could actually be doing reconnaissance, and you may not know it. So watch the people who are watching you, because you just might learn something. So I also do a little bit of theatrical makeup. So when we decided that we were going to make somebody into a homeless guy, Sean got volunteered. So this is before Sean, and this is homeless Sean. And homeless Sean got to hang out on a bench and do some recon without getting, let's say, caught. So if I'm going to do on-set recon and there's nowhere easy for me to sit by the door of the building, I'll usually just look across the street. If there's a Starbucks, that's great. If there's a bar, that's even better. Because I can sit there all day long and watch people come in and out. Now, what am I looking for when I see these people going in and out of these buildings? Well, not just the time, but I'm also looking at how they're dressed. And I'm also looking to see if they have have an ID card that's either dangling from their neck or maybe down from their belt line, because I may need one of those. Not a real one, but I can make my own. That's what Kinko's is for. So while I'm texting on my phone, I'm actually taking pictures of the ID cards that I see. Another great thing about the bar is that most of the employees will go to the closest bar after work, or after work drinks and discussions. We'll put it that way. So this is a great way to not only learn what's going on, but to really get to know some of the folks that you're targeting. Surveillance. All right, when I say surveillance vehicle, this is probably what you think. This is Hollywood's version of a surveillance vehicle. This is what you should be using for a surveillance vehicle. Depending on where you're going, you want something that's very nondescript and that's going to blend very well. Now, the U-Haul is a little bit unexpected, but if I'm doing a test in an industrial complex, that U-Haul is not going to get a second glance because they have box trucks that go in and out all day long. But I wouldn't have known that if I wouldn't have done my off-site reconnaissance first. So, what else are we going to do while we're on site now that we've rented a nondescript sedan? We're going to check out not only the movements, we're going to check out the folks, right, what they're wearing, what they're doing. We might also look for some wireless, depending on what the scope of the test is. Sometimes we're hired to do not just network testing, not just physical testing, but sometimes both. Sometimes that's referred to as renting. So if we're doing renting, I'm looking for every kind of attack vector that I can find. But be sure that you bring a map, like a real one, because it's a great way to unfold it and cover up your stuff if you get busted by security. Because then you just look like the lost tourist and they don't see all of your equipment underneath the map. You don't actually have to be able to read it, just unfold it and cover your stuff up. The other thing is, you might want to pack some snacks because you're probably going to be in there a while. So plan accordingly. Alright, so we talked a little bit about ID cards. So these are some of the readers that they would use for those RFID cards. There we go, okay. So some of you may have some of these for school, for work, parking garages use little tags, or like this, I don't know what they're called here, the toll passes that go on the top of the windshield. Yeah, that. Those are all, they all use RFID technology. So the way that these work are basically, once they're close to a power source, i.e. the reader will then pull off two pieces of information from these cards. One is the facility ID, and the second is the actual card number. But it can't do that unless it actually gets the power. So, if it's just dangling around your neck, then it's not doing anything until it actually gets power. Anybody heard of the Proxmark 3 before? Oh, I saw a hand. All right, we gotta talk later. So the Proxmark 3 is basically a research instrument that is used to not only read these devices, but it can actually replay the signal that it records. So if I'm at Starbucks or the bar, and I get close enough to somebody to activate their card and read its contents, the Proxmark 3 will store that for me. So I press another button, and it will play it for me. So I can walk up to the reader that we saw with the little antenna up, and it will go beep, and the door will open. Good stuff. The only problem with the Proxmark is that it's kind of clunky. So the Proxmark itself is not big, but you have an antenna, and you have to have a power supply, and you can't hold it all and be discreet. So this is my RFID binder of doom, I so named it. So here's the Proxmark in the green there, and the black thing at the top there is just a little mobile charger that I got at Best Buy for like 40 bucks. And on the other side, it holds the actual antenna. The only problem with it is that it actually would block most of the waves going in and out, so the cards weren't getting adequate power. So I had to improvise a little bit. This was plan B. If anybody's used a grit before, it just kind of holds all your things together so you don't lose them. But this is how I use the grit. And this works fantastic because I just take this whole thing, I put it in a laptop sleeve, and then I just kind of walk around. In and out of Starbucks, in and out of the bar, in and out of the favorite lunch spot. Just gotta get close enough to somebody to get their card contents. But when I say close, I mean close, like this close. That's not nearly as easy as you think it is. Until you try, you'll never know how awkward that can really be. So, last year at Black Hat, the folks over at Bishop Fox actually did a design that helped me out quite a bit. So they basically took the same little reader that we saw, except for they took one that's for a parking garage. It's big, right? It's about a foot square. And they modified it so that it can do the same kind of car reading. So what you see here is it's just got the cover off, and it will read each card that it activates. It'll flash the numbers up on the screen. You can't read that. It puts the numbers up on the screen, and then it writes everything to a micro SD that's on the circuit board there. So now it's turned a read range of this far into 3 feet. I may not be able to get this close to you without looking really weird, but I can get within 3 feet of you just fine. Especially at places like Starbucks and elevators and whatnot. So I brought it with me and the Crossguard. I'll be out in the demo area after Paul's talk, because I want to see it, so you'll have to wait. But after that, come on out, we'll get everything out, you can try it out for yourself. Public service announcement, if you have proximity cards, get an RFID blocking folder for them. This is what they look like. Buy them. Use them. It's good. Anybody know what that little white box is? No? Okay. Luckily I do. It is a motion sensor. I haven't seen any on the doors around here, but I also haven't been exploring too much. So on doors where you need to swipe that card to open the door, to exit the door on the other side, people don't have to, they don't like pushing buttons or swiping cards to get out. It's very inconvenient. So this motion sensor will actually see them from a distance and then activate to release the door switch. So from the other side, it might look like this. So this is kind of cool. If I don't have time to load a card, or I don't see somebody with one, or I don't have the right kind of equipment with me, we can go a little bit more low tech and use a coat hanger. So you unfold the coat hanger here, you make a nice little flag. I like to use the one that says we love our customers because it makes them real happy when I put it in the report. And this is how I got around your $8 million security system with a coat hanger and a paper flag. So when you do this, you thread it through the door like this, you put it in the middle, right? Then up toward the top, and you wave that little flag around. And when you do it right, the door pops open. That's my boss. I was actually the camera person on this one. So pretty cool. But what if the coat hanger doesn't work? Sometimes they actually adjust the beam, so instead of looking real close to the door, sometimes it will go a little bit further out to prevent people like me from using coat hangers to open their doors. That's right, I got this. So the balloon animal balloons, right? I'm sure they have a name, I don't know it. I take a handful of those with me. I take one of those little hand pumps that they have for kids' parties, put a balloon through the door, then you just pump it a little bit until it's just about ready to pop, and you let it go. And when you let it go, the balloon goes like this, and then the door. When this doesn't work, there's a pile of balloons on the inside of the door that you can't get to, and the cleaning crew has some explaining to do the next morning. It's a little embarrassing. So there's a kid's little saying, right? You can't go over it, you can't go under it, you gotta go through it. In this case, if I can't go through it, over it, I'll just go under it. So if you haven't ever crawled under a raised floor before, that's what it looks like. Shot. And you just pop out on the other side and open the door. That makes them very easy. But it works. So what are our other options, right? Maybe I can go through this door. Even though I don't have a key, even though I don't have a card. Say the wall actually goes all the way down to the floor and I can't crawl underneath and I can't go over it. What if I just take it off? So if the hinges on there are on the outside, like they are on this door, at the bottom of that there's a little hole. So all you need is something like a roofing hammer, not this big, and just something to give it a couple good whacks with. It doesn't need to be a hammer, just something that can withstand the shock. So if it works around, you can have a door off like this in 30 seconds. So you just kind of pull it off and you just kind of prop it up and slide in and pull it little tiny. Problem solved. So I had a client that wanted us to test their data center. And they were really proud of these new doors that they got at their data center. You had to swipe the card, it would open for you, and then to get out, you had to swipe the card and it would open for you. It's kind of like going to the grocery store, except for the card. Okay, this is kind of cool. What happens if you try to force that open? And the guy looks at me and he said, well, why would you do that? This is why we do that. Because I can. They were very displeased. So let's talk about fences. I have a little bit of time left. Good fences make good neighbors, right? Or something like that. I didn't quite get it. What's wrong with this fence? Yes, the barbed wire. So unless that's like an iPod factory, you want the barbed wire to go on the other side because that prevents people from climbing over your fence to get in. I guess these people don't want their folks to get out. So it's the iPod factory comment. Did I mention I'm not making these statements on behalf of my company? Anyway. So if I want in a fence, and going under is not an option. Going through is a very great option. But clients really don't like it when you leave a big hole in their fence. Okay, they get a little upset about that. So this next video clip, it's not somebody from our team. It's actually a clip from the movie or the show Bird Notice. If you like this kind of stuff, I highly suggest the series. It's on Netflix. But when this happens, you use this everyday tool, just like this. Probably everybody's got at least 2, if not 4 of these. It goes over, and then you go over, but you don't have to do the front foot like that. However, just be warned, that's a one-way ticket. So unless you take that floor mat with you, you're not going to get out the same way. Ask me how I know this. Bad experience. Bad experience. Anyway, you're going to use the floor mat, take the floor mat with you. And with that, I think I'm close to out of time. If you'll still use Twitter after this presentation, you can follow me. I won't tweet stalk you unless you're working for a client organization. Other than that, you're probably pretty safe. I will be out at the demo area with my cool toys if you want to come check them out after Paul's talk, because I want to see it. So, thank you very much, and I'll be available later for questions.